Fight!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fighting with Numbers. This is episode 47. We getting old up in here. Last week, by the way, was a tough one for this little podcast. The model did not have a shining moment. It went 3-4. And look, it's normal when I see tier 5s lose. I kind of expect it, and I kind of brush it off anyways. But what stings is when I have tier 1 favorites taking losses, especially two of them. We took a double tier 1 loss last week. That's pretty rare. The tier's been one of the most reliable ones all year, as you can tell when you see my dashboard on the website, but it doesn't go 0-2 very often, I'll be honest. I didn't fully agree with one of those results. I kind of feel like we got a bad beat on one of them, but hey, that's the sport. That's MMA, man. You can do everything right and still watch a fight go completely sideways in a couple seconds, but we're going to dust it off. We're going to move forward. At the end of the day, our fighter just did not perform up to par. Overall, the model now sits at 74, 43, and 6 on the year. We're going to keep on grinding. That's still right around 63%. As I've mentioned plenty times, we hover around 65, 63%. So we're probably going to stay in that bubble. We just got to ride it out and find the spots to bet. This week, the UFC heads to Baku, Azerbaijan. I've been practicing. Another international card, another early morning for those of us in the States. Pacific time, that'll be going off at 6 a.m. for those of you on the West Coast. East Coast, 9 a.m., so not as bad. But this is still a early morning for those of us on a Saturday. Either way, but we're going to watch some fights, some coffee and violence, as I like to say. This will be headlined by Rafael Fiziev. It is Rafael, not Rafael, by the way. He is not Brazilian, for those of us that have been affected by the Portuguese pronunciation of all these UFC fighters. But Rafael Fiziev headlines in front of what is essentially a home crowd against a man on a hot streak, Manuel Torres. And then we're going to get a week off next week, by the way. The UFC is taking July 4th off. The whole weekend. July 4th falls on a Saturday. They're taking that weekend off. So guess what? We will take the week off from the podcast as well. No new episode next week. As 4th of July falls next week, no fights. Feels like it would have been pretty fitting to put the UFC Freedom card on Independence Day. But they had other plans for that on the day they scheduled it. They had other intentions. Hey, maybe next time America has a big birthday, we can throw it on a Saturday on July 4th when that lines up, if it lines up perfectly. So how about we get some wins before we take that break, though? 2 fights on the breakdown today. Not a big podcast, short podcast, just a little bitty podcast. And as you know, and as you get reminded every single week, I am Rob Moreno, a.k.a. Bobby Knuckles. I am also the Robio. Find me across all social medias at the Robio. Full model data and season dashboard is live at fightingwithnumbers.com. Why don't we get into it? Let's go. Almabayev versus Charles Johnson. Let's start here. Almabayev has quietly put together one of the better runs in the flyweight division since entering the UFC in 2023. He is 6-1 in the promotion, with his only loss coming to Manel Kape, who, by the way, great victory last week, who at this point looks like the #1 contender for the flyweight title, outside of Pantoja being healthy, of course. And that's not a loss that defines him. You know, most recently he submitted Alex Perez in November, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. Charles Johnson hasn't quite had the same consistency, but he's flashed real ability when things click. I will say that. He's 8-6 in the UFC overall. He's gone 1-1 in 2026 so far, and most recently he picked up a decision win over Bruno Silva in March. He's capable, man, and don't sleep on him. He has a TKO win over the current flyweight champion, by the way, Joshua Van, on his resume. That's not nothing in case he ever climbs that ladder. Johnson will hold the physical advantage here, 5-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch height advantage as well, 5'9" to Almabayev's 5'4". He'll try to use that length to keep this fight in the striking game where he's most comfortable, as we will see in the metrics. XR percentage, let's start there. Almabayev 69%, Johnson 52%. Johnson is drifting toward that red flag zone. That's always a concern for me. 5 of his UFC losses have come via decision. The round-winning picture just isn't pretty for him if he goes round to round. He just isn't winning rounds consistently enough to get the judges' scorecards. He's kind of a bang or bust in this situation. Johnson is a striker. 67% of his time at distance, landing 4.77 significant strikes per minute with a positive 0.75 differential. He carries power too, as I mentioned. 4 UFC knockdowns and 3 knockout victories. But his 38% head strike accuracy tells you he's throwing big and waiting for one to land. Along with 50% significant strike accuracy overall, he's kind of just swinging. He's been knocked down 3 times himself in those exchanges, so it's kind of high risk, high reward style for him. Almabayev, on the other hand, he is not interested in playing that game. He only spends 48% of his time at distance, so he's willing to engage, and he only lands 2.31 significant strikes per minute, but he absorbs just 1.99 per minute. He avoids trouble. He's not going to try to outbox Charles Johnson. That's not how you win a fight against Charles Johnson. He's trying to make Charles Johnson fight his fight instead. And his fight, no shocker, is on the ground. 89% control rate in the clinch and ground time, 47% of that time in a dominant position. He's scored 27 takedowns, only 43% accuracy, but he does attempt 7.29 takedowns per 5 minutes. He is going to be relentless against a guy like Charles Johnson. And here's the historical data that matters. Johnson does have decent takedown defense. Johnson has 69% takedown defense, which is respectable, but superior grapplers have shown the blueprint repeatedly. For example, Muhammad Mokaev took Johnson down 12 times in their 2022 fight. Cody Durden took him down 11 times in their matchup. So he has the defense, but Almabayev is a really good grappler, and a good grappler has shown they can get him down and make him work and make him suffer on the mat. So the path is clear. Get it to the ground, stay on top, grind it out. The model, look at that. It agrees. Asu Almabayev, 71% win probability percentage. Why did I say that out of order? 71% win probability percentage. Tier 1 favorite, full confidence from the model. The money line has moved on us a little bit. He was minus 220 when I wrote it into the app, but he has since climbed to minus 245, minus 250, depending where you look. The edge is shrinking, but it's not gone. If you can find Almabayev by decision at plus 130, that's worth a look, of course. Though I don't have that available locally in Las Vegas yet, so I haven't done that. Either way, Almabayev is also a strong parlay piece heading into fight night. There is a couple other favorites that he could match up well with. He's going on my card one way or another. How? We will determine later. Hey, maybe takedown over-unders, but those are props I don't get till way later in the week, and we record this on a Tuesday. So enjoy it while you can. Asu Almabayev, tier 1 favorite. We're finding a way to put him on the card. And just like that, it's main event time because it's a shorter podcast. I'm just getting out of your way. Look, I like a short podcast. I have certain podcasts I'm willing to listen to for an hour, maybe plus. But there's other podcasts I like just straight to the point. I kind of need those tiny little deliveries. I need those 20, 30-minute podcasts, maybe 15-minute podcasts, as this probably somewhere along that hits this week. Those are nice. Those are easier to, I think, to fit in a lot of people's days when I'm trying to ask you for your time to have me in your ear to some capacity. So that's why I kind of try to keep this short and straight to the point. Don't get me wrong. There's hour-long podcasts that I will listen to, especially about MMA. But I don't think I'm that guy. I don't think I have the pipes to pull that off. So let's move on to the main event. Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres. This one matters for Fiziev in more ways than one, I think. Rafael Fiziev is fighting in front of, essentially, like I said, his home crowd in Azerbaijan, and he needs it. He's gone 1-4 in his last 5, a brutal stretch that includes 2 losses to now champ Justin Gaethje, a TKO to Matisse Gamrot, more of a leg injury situation there, and most recently a knockout loss to Mauricio Hufi in January. He bounced back once with the win over Ignacio Bahamondes, but the Hufi loss snapped that momentum immediately. He looked bad. The competition has been elite. No shame in losing to Justin Gaethje even twice. But his rankings, well, actually, I was going to say his rankings hasn't exactly cratered, but UFC's got new rankings now. So I believe the website's a little confusing. I will say UFC.com. Be better. It's always so confusing as to what you're looking at. But here they've got Faziv ranked 11. I believe these are media panel rankings. So I think if I click that, these are now meta. And now it's out of order. Okay, lightweight's over here now. Let's change it up. So in the new rankings, Rafael Fiziev is now out of the top 15. So sorry, bud. His rankings have cratered due to that. But at some point, the losses for Fiziev are just piling up and you become a stepping stone rather than a contender, unfortunately, in the UFC. That's just the storyline that gets written over and over and over again. So Faziv needs a statement at UFC Baku. Across from him, Manuel Torres. And this is where the model gets a little interesting. Torres is 5-1 in the UFC, 6 UFC bouts since his debut, with his only loss to, ironically, Ignacio Bahamondes, the same man Faziv has only beaten recently. Outside of that loss, he has 5 first-round victories in the UFC. In fact, across his entire MMA career, he has only gone past the first round once. This man is a first-round specialist or a first-round defeatist, I guess, because he's also lost all his fights in the first round. Now, I'll be transparent. Torres barely actually qualifies for the model here. It's a very unique situation in the sense that all his fights have ended in the first round. So I think I barely have 3 fights worth of cage time. He doesn't have a lot of cage time, so it's hard to measure that. But hey, his fights have been so short that the data is just limited. Normally, that's a reason to leave him out. I probably have a more lean to just not include him in the model, but it's a small slate this week. It's a week before we take off. We're going to run it. We're going to go with it. Take the confidence level with appropriate context, though, with whatever comes out as the result. No spoilers. Stick around. Torres holds a 2-inch reach advantage and 2-inch height advantage over Faziv. XR percentages. Manuel Torres, I mean, you win your fights all in the first round, you're going to have an XR percentage like this. It's 83%. Faziv at 47%. Now, Torres' numbers inflated by short fights against lighter competition. Totally will acknowledge that. Faziv's reflects 2 grinding decision losses to a guy like Justin Gaethje, by the way. Both numbers come with context. But the gap is the gap. I mean, Rafael Fiziev being in 47% is not a good marker, especially, I mean, he's only 33 years old, but I mean, the guy's got some wear on him going into these fights. The striking picture tells the real story of the fight as well. Both men spend 80+% of their time at distance. This is a striking match. Full stop. Faziv lands 4.71 significant strikes per minute, but carries a negative .13 differential. He's absorbing more than he's landing, and he's only scored 2 knockdowns across 12 UFC fights. There's some power, but not a lot of it. His last knockdown, and I believe TKO victory as well, was against Rafael dos Anjos back in 2022. The finishing ability that made him a little bit more of an exciting striker in the division has been hard to find as of late against more recent competition. Torres lands 6.69 significant strikes per minute. That's heavy, with a 2.36 differential, absorbing just 4.33 significant strikes per minute. So he throws volume and he minimizes the return fire. That's always important. He is already scored 4 knockdowns in a much shorter UFC career. The output and efficiency gap is significant here. One wrinkle worth flagging: Rafael Fiziev has shown he can mix in takedowns when the situation calls for it. He used to not show that, but he has most recently. Against Ignacio Bahamondes, he landed 4 takedowns in that one fight, which is half of his UFC career total, by the way. If he decides to use a wrestle-heavy game plan here, would be a surprise again, but that could change the dynamic of the fight. Let's just point that out. His last victory turned into a wrestling first approach for him as to stay away from danger. But with 90% takedown defense for both men, it's possible neither finds any success on the map if they decide to do that. So the model crunches the numbers. Beep, boop, boop, beep. It lands on Manuel Torres, 81% win probability here. And we got a live dog action here. Just barely, though. Let's pump the brakes on that 81%, of course, with limited data and a step up in competition for Torres. I'd personally scale that number back just a bit, but it's, as an underdog, it's still, a live dog is a live dog, and the value is real. It's there. He's sitting at +100 at a couple spots at some books right now. You got to look around because he's already starting to reach -110 in a couple places, so that dog tag is leaving. That spread tells you the line is moving, and it's not going to stay at even money for long, if I'm being honest. I want this number to be higher, if I'm being honest, even +100. I wish it could go a little higher. I took a stab at +100. If it goes back, there's a possible another chance there, but ideally +100 or better. If it slips to -110 across the board, I would shrink that edge significantly. But as of right now, Torres is on the card as a plus money live dog. I know live dogs have been cold lately, or dead, I guess, but we got to just trust the process. It's live dogs are still profitable for the year. So we're going to take that stab and go with the hot hand in Manuel Torres. And that is UFC Baku, ladies and gentlemen. 2 fights, 2 plays. Let's get some wins before the week off, huh? As mentioned prior, we are at 74, 43, and 6 on the year. The Elite Fave double loss last week still stings. I mean, Elites are still at 28 and 10, 73%. That's still pretty good. We will take that every year, of course. We just don't want double losses on the same day. We don't want that. We're going to keep trusting those tiers, though, and keep letting the numbers do the work. The UFC takes next weekend off for July 4th, as will I. So feel free. Enjoy the holiday. Rest up. And if you're not in the U.S., enjoy the weekend. I guess it's still a normal weekend for you. But we'll be back with a full breakdown after that when the schedule picks back up. Big card on the way after that as the Mac returns. The return of the Mac against Max Holloway. But for now and over the week, head over to fightingwithnumbers.com for a full season dashboard. I'm showing it on the screen here. Model data included there. The breakdowns will be there. The tiers will be there, and more fights. There's 5 total fights modeled on the website this week, so go check it out. As always, find me on Twitter, X, and Instagram at TheRobbio. If you're enjoying the show, hey, guess what? Do me a favor, subscribe, leave a rating, share the episode with a fellow fight fan, a violence lover of sorts. It helps more than you know, and I will say that every week until you subscribe. And if you subscribe, make sure other people subscribe, and then maybe one day I'll stop saying it. But for now, appreciate all of you for tuning in. Let's get these wins. Enjoy the violence. We'll talk next time.
Perfect.